Welcome back, guys, to Fog Entertainment, and we are travelling 23 years into the past as we are checking out and reviewing The Pianist. So, with that, we're actually travelling a lot of years to the past. We are heading back to World War II, and we are heading to Nazi occupied Poland. We begin the movie in September 1939. Wladyslaw Spilman, a Polish Jew pianist, is playing live on the radio in Warsaw when the station is besieged during Nazi Germany's bombing of Warsaw. Right, now this was the beginning. We see Spielman interact with this woman whose name is absolutely eluding me. But what this to me, this is like one of the only real parts of the movie I didn't like, right? Because you have this situation where Warsaw gets bombed, and like they're all laughing and joking. I just don't understand. Like, why were they laughing and joking? Like, they were like running down like the stairwell and like, oh, that's great, yo, this and that. Now I know maybe they thought the bombing of Warsaw wouldn't last that long, and the Polish army would have defeated them. But if anybody knows their history, I mean, the Polish army had horses, the Germans had tanks and a shit ton of tanks. So obviously they weren't going to last too long. But after he manages to escape, he returns to the house, and we meet the rest of the family. They learn that Britain and France have declared war on Germany on the news. So they're relieved at this news, but for whatever reason, they decide to stay and celebrate. But obviously, their celebrations are short lived, as we soon see that Warsaw then becomes controlled of Nazi general government. And Jews are then prevented from working or owning businesses and are then forced to wear Star of David armbands. So Spellman and his family have to sell many of their personal belongings, his piano, in order to make enough zlotys, which was the currency. The old currency of Poland. It's actually the current currency of Poland. So yeah, it was very short lived for them. It was sad seeing them. They were a healthy family, and then they're having to go through all this torment. They're losing just muscle. They're not eating food properly enough, and it is really a tragic state of affairs, man, to say the least. But then as the years go on, we see a bunch of time skips. Like it goes from 1939 to November 1940, and at this point they're forced from their home into the overcrowded Warsaw ghetto. The conditions are absolutely horrible. Spielman then finds work by performing in a cafe which is frequented by upper class Jews who smuggle in forbidden goods in order to live comfortably. But on one occasion, he sees a young boy being savagely beaten by a guard while trying to crawl through the ghetto wall, and as he gets him through the wall, the boy is dead. And it's like it really just goes to show this isn't fiction. Like this is like literally what happened, and it's scary to think what happened. But at the same time, as shit as wars are, they're always intriguing when you like watch documentaries or you watch movies or whatever. Like it's a real fucking eye opener. It's fascinating. The good and the evil side of it. It really is, and you're glued to the screen throughout this. If it's done correctly, like movies on the world wars or other wars in general, like Vietnam, like if it's done correctly and it's accurately correct, if it's if the accuracy, if it's done accurately, it will be a good movie. It really would be. During one evening, the family look out the window and they see the SS murder an entire family in an apartment, and what we see then is the SS essentially stand, stand. The guy can't stand because he's in a wheelchair, and they just pick the wheelchair up and fuck him out the window, and he hits the floor, and it's like holy shit. His family, his younger brother, rejects the option to work with the Jewish police, which again, I mean, I understand why he rejected it, right? Because becoming a member of the Jewish police to a degree is almost like it's all you're siding with the Germans essentially, like the Nazis at this point. But after this, he manages to get his brother back, and then when we cut to the 16th of August 1942, his family are set to be transported to Srebrenica extermination camp, also one of the concentration camps, as part of Operation Reinhard. He's about to board the train, but then his friend who helped him get his brother out, he's at the Jewish ghetto police, separates him from his family, and he has managed to escape, but he can't save the rest of his family. as they are sent away to camps cramped into absolute horrid conditions on the trains. So he then becomes a slave labourer, sorry, and then he learns of an upcoming Jewish revolt. We hear people discussing like there used to be 500,000 of us now, and now there's only 60,000. So it's like, by God, during all this, he manages to get guns in for them. He gets help from a non-Jewish friend and his wife, Janina Godluska, who provide him with an apartment where he can hide. That's after he manages to escape one night. He doesn't really want to be a part of the Jewish uprising. I mean, you could say fucking bottled this, but it's like if the 500,000 decided to cause, an uprising, right, and a revolt early on, like 1939, they might have been able to do something. But, by like 1942 and getting later into the war, the Germans are, you keep hearing like every update, oh, the Russians are over that river, oh, the British, the French, the Americans, they're surrounding, um, they're surrounding the Germans at that point. But yeah, it's tragic when you see his family basically all get split up and just flung onto fucking trains, and he couldn't do anything about it really. We then cut to April 1943. Spillman is watching basically as the ghetto uprising unfolds. They kill a few Germans, but it ultimately fails, doesn't it? A female neighbour manages to discover Spillman, attempts to report him, but he manages to escape and meets his old friend Dorita, whose husband then provides him with another hiding place in the middle of the German quarter. The new apartment has a piano in it, but he's compelled to keep quiet in order to not get discovered. He then begins to starve due to the food not being dished out to him, and the guy that's supposed to be feeding him and essentially giving him all these supplies just does not do anything to him. And then he suffers from jaundice, which is also known as icterus, is a yellowish or less frequent greenish pigmentation of the skin due to high bilirubin levels. It was something to do with like the what do you call it? What do you call it? The gallbladder. So that's not good. But he manages to recover from this, and the Warsaw uprising begins at this point. The Home Army then attacks the hospital, which is obviously the German hospital. He's seeing all this. But essentially, due to this fight, the fucking war in Warsaw just like spirals out of control, and it lasted 63 days, from the 1st of August to the 2nd of October 1994, and like the whole place is essentially getting destroyed. And you know what? It was good. Fucking fair play to some of these Poles, man, getting stuck in. It was a Polish underground resistance. They managed to liberate Warsaw from German occupation, and essentially, it came to an end. It's, I mean, it's just absolutely insane. Casualties during this. I mean, listen to some of these numbers. It's estimated around 16 members of the Polish resistance were killed, 6,000 were badly wounded. In addition, between 150,000 and 200,000 Polish civilians died, mostly from mass executions. Jews were being harboured by Poles, were exposed by German house-to-house clearances and mass evictions of entire neighbourhoods. The defeat of the Warsaw Uprising also further decimated urban areas of Poland. So it just shows you, man, absolutely insane, to say the least. Absolutely fucking mental, and they barely had that many tanks at the end of the day. So crazy, crazy, crazy. Now, apparently, this is actually labelled as the 2 month period of the Warsaw Uprising marked the start of the Cold War. So there you go. That is fucking mental, isn't it, man? When you think of it, that actually lasted that long. Poland would remain as part of the Soviet aligned Eastern Bloc throughout the Cold War until 1989. So that is crazy, man. That is absolutely insane. The uprising was now in a siege phase, which favoured the better equipped German, and eventually the Home Army surrendered on the October 2nd when their supplies ran out. The Germans then deported the remaining civilians in the city and razed the city itself. In the end, as many as 15,000 insurgents and 250,000 civilians lost their lives, while the Germans lost 16,000 men. Crazy, man. I bet all the buildings are then getting burnt with flamethrowers. And yeah, he then runs into Wehrmacht captain, Unified Armed Forces in Nazi Germany, Wilhelm Hosenfield, who learns that he is a Jew, but he decides to let him live. Spielman, he's a pianist. Almost like blow your shot there on that piano, and if you're good, I like. But thankfully for Spielman, this man decides to let him live, and he gives him supplies in the attic of the house. But we then have another time skip to January 1945, which is unfortunate for the Warsaw Uprising, which of course ended in October. If they'll just lasted a few more months, they would have been able to probably help with that. But obviously, that's out the windy at this point. Hosenfield then leaves Spielman with a large supply of food and his big greatcoat to keep him warm. After Warsaw is liberated, Spielman narrowly survives an ambush by the People's Army, which he runs out, right, with a German coat on. And obviously, they mistake him for being a German because of the coat. And this is essentially, he survives, which, he lasted a lot of years here. Warsaw is liberated. And just like the state of this city, man, and it wasn't just the only city. It's a remarkable job if you think of it, how like much of Europe and beyond got destroyed during this war. And, a few short years and decades later, it's all rebuilt. It's fascinating, as I said earlier on. But several months later, some concentration camp inmates are fairly like abusing German soldiers being held at a Soviet POW camp. One of them is a violinist. And then one of the prisoners approaches him, and it turns out it's Hosenfield, the man that was helping Spielman. He's like, if you know Spielman, help me, because I helped him. The violinist then brings Spielman back to the site, only to find it being abandoned. And it turns out that Hosenfield actually got killed in a Soviet gulag in 1952. The movie ends with Spielman continuing his career as a pianist, and then it reads on the screen that Spielman died in the year 2000 at the age of 88, while Hosenfield died in Soviet captivity in 1952. And that is the end of The Pianist, guys. I thought it was a very, very good movie. It's weird though, it's like they dedicated like so much to Hosenfield at the end, but he was not actually in that much of the movie. But again, that's just the timeline. It's like when he actually meets him, there's not that long to go. Anyway, I will give this movie an 8 out of 10. Fantastic, loved it, love a good war movie, and 8 out of 10 is no bad.